Hello and welcome to the Green Voice podcast. I'm your host, Grant Ervin from S&B USA. Today I have with me Ryan Worsing from PRT, Pittsburgh Regional Transit. Ryan, good afternoon.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
That's going terrific.
It's good to see you. You're kind of returning back to the Green Voice.
Yes.
Right? This is your second appearance. Am I right?
Sequel. That's true.
The sequel. It's always good to have like these opportunities to check in with folks because oftentimes I think that our the podcast format gives you an opportunity to have like deeper conversations, but always things like get turned up and percolate through previous conversations that you want to dive deeper into. So it's always good to have you back as a guest.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's also NFL Draft Eve, so this is the calm before the storm.
This is the calm before the storm. This is it. We could maybe let's. I want to pick up actually before we go into the draft.
Sure.
We were. Just talking about the Pittsburgh Earth Day Business Breakfast, which you were a panelist on yesterday. So we're kind of time stamping this a little bit. So
right.
it's Earth Month. So we get to have, and thank you for wearing your green.
I know.
I didn't get the memo. So, but you got the green coffee.
I was color coordinated
You're very
yesterday.
I'm color
coordinated today.
You're like, I'm going to Point Park. I'm wearing my green. I'm going to be ready to go.
Yep.
Curious because you've been a part of the business breakfast as PRT has in the past. I'm always curious because I don't get a chance. I have the pleasure and the privilege of moderating those conversations. I'm always taking stuff out of the conversation personally, but I'm curious for you, was there things that you hear or conversations that happen as a part of those multi-organizational panels, which are always at a high level, which I understand some people like it, some people they want more granularity. But are there things that you pick up from conversations like that when you're listening to other organizations tell their stories, like good, bad, indifferent, but like little things that you kind of retrieve from that?
I think so. We're always the public.
Yeah, you're the public
member
entity
of the panel, and so we're always a little bit different. But it's always interesting to hear, specifically from the private folks, how effectively, or at least how diligently, they're going about the process of monetizing sustainability. I find that that's something that I'm trying to learn more about personally and trying to bring to PRT because obviously money is always tight for us.
Sure.
And so it's how do you not just be efficient for the sake of saving money, but how do you turn that into a revenue stream for you? And I'm always trying to glean little lessons from the private partners that are on that panel, and I caught a little bit of that yesterday. But I think the topic du jour was definitely artificial intelligence and how that's kind of intersecting with our work for good and for bad. And specifically, we got into it about electricity prices a little bit, about how that's changing things.
Yeah.
We as a operator of a very large and energy hungry light rail system. We're definitely eyeing electricity markets and what we can do to maybe bring our costs down there. So AI is sort of, on the one hand, a problem in the sense that it's the data centers are demanding so much more energy and the electricity prices are going up for the rest of us. But as I mentioned at the breakfast yesterday, for us, in a way that's maybe a little bit different than the profit-driven folks, it is like a red alarm incentive to actually get busy with solar, with energy efficiency, things like that, because we have no other recourse but to save.
That's interesting because it's and you were saying this a couple of days ago when we did a prep call too. Like there in some cases those instances are driving sustainability decisions because they're right in front of us, right? Like they're whether it's on the cost saving side or trying to re-engineer your business model because of those external pressures. you're saying it's given more voice or heft to the sustainability argument.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think what makes us different than a for-profit company is if we are hemorrhaging money in energy, let's say, you can't just up it somewhere else. You
just can't raise.
You can't raise it in that sense. The money we get is mostly from the state and from the federal government, and farebox revenue for a public transit agency on a good day is maybe 15%.
Okay,
15, 20.
Wow,
it's not a lot, and that's like a really high-performing agency. You'll get over 20. And so we've got to find it elsewhere, or we got to save it.
Yeah.
And probably the easiest money to make, you could go for that big donation, a foundation grant,
right?
Or you can save it yourself
in the operation.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah. Are you finding yourself, since you last were here, like getting more involved in the operational side of the ledger? Of PRT.
Oh yeah. I'm I'm an invasive species. I think I'm a little bit everywhere. And
which is the nature of the job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we at PRT, it's you can see pretty clearly how operational costs and savings compound. I mean, every minute spent on a bus that doesn't have passengers on it is a minute wasted. Every drop of fuel times 500 buses is a lot. You know, it really is. You can measure it out pretty simply with just $1 here, a minute there, and it really does add up across the whole fleet. So yeah, we've been making progress, and certainly I've been in conversations with a lot of people at PRT on everything from, like I said, electricity development, electricity purchasing. Obviously the bus fleet transition continues to be a big focus for us, even with some money challenges. We call it the non-revenue fleet, so our fleet vehicles, the little cars and the bigger trucks that'll go out and
services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of those need to go emissions free by 2045, same as the bus fleet. We've got landscaping, so I've become an amateur landscape architect over the past year. We're doing, native water retaining type landscapes at a couple of locations. So really it spans everything, and all of it's part operational, it's part capital, but the operational side is where we're really trying to rein it in.
Curious, and I don't recall this, but I always like to bring this up when we talk to a sustainability director. Like, where do you sit in the organization? Like, what's your physical place in the org chart?
Physically, I sit right across from the CEO, which does not mean I'm actually that important a person. It just is. It happened to be the empty chair.
That was the empty chair that you get to sit across from Catherine.
Yeah. But it's a good question, because there's actually been some reshuffling since the last time we spoke, and we're now under probably relevant to this conversation and relevant to the breakfast yesterday. We're under the finance division now.
Interesting.
Which it's really it goes. You talk to other agencies or other governments, or probably it's true for profit as well, but like sustainability is sometimes, like in the case of the county, a standalone department.
Right.
But when they were the Office of Sustainability, were under facilities. I talked to others. I might get this a little bit wrong, but for a while out in SEPTA in Philadelphia, I think it was under the Office of Innovation, which is kind of itself spans a lot of territory.
Yep.
That might be slightly wrong, but the point being is that sustainability is kind of a little bit everywhere, and so you can choose to house it in any one place. I like that PRT puts it under finance now, because first of all, especially with some change in federal administration, we have been forced to look at more the financial benefits of what we're doing in sustainability, rather than just this sort of decarbonization for its own sake.
Sure.
And the state expects the same, because they're our primary funder, and we've been back and forth with them trying to get more money. And so obviously we want to show that we're saving money as much as we can. So it makes sense that you would have sustainability in a finance position, and you'd be thinking about these things as, yes, obviously good for themselves. We don't want to be pumping emissions into local communities, but
cost is carbon and carbon is cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you find that has it been a culture shift for you to be in finance in terms of like understanding that their mission and how you fit into it?
You know, it's a pretty fresh change.
Yeah.
So time will tell. I would
Okay.
say probably
That's for the next visit.
probably for the next visit.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably be in some other division by then. Who knows? No, I actually think it's been a pretty harmonious shift so far because a lot of it's just external. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of external events have just
Dictated.
whether it's electricity or it's diesel fuel, those
Mm-hmm.
prices are through the roof right now, and they're variable. They're
Fluctuate.
chaotic. Oh yeah. So I mean, whether or not we were actually under that roof, we would have been called up pretty quickly into some of these events to say we need a solution for this.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a
Like, Ryan, what can we do?
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have to be pretty nimble to world events like that because sometimes, you know, but it's good to see sustainability is one of the things that people reach for whenever there is, you know, when money needs to be saved or there's a problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I think that's really illustrative too. You see that in a lot of organizations when you can start to make that synapse connection.
Right.
Then you are, I think, at a next generation level. Like, you're moving from the nice to have to the need to have, and you're being integrated into an organization's strategic operational footprint.
Right.
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 You know, a lot of organizations don't find that or figure that out. I think they start out with sustainability as kind of a need to have. That, you know, it's a box that they should check or
Right.
whatever. But when you start to get into the financial operations, you're moving to another level, I think.
Yeah.
But not just in terms of the sustainability, but the sustainability of sustainability, right?
Yeah, you start to think about it in all forms,
Mhm.
sustainability, financially, sustainability for the climate and everything. And I think it rings true for us because we used to be in just a standalone strategy division, very small, but we kind of operated as a little satellite team that would go to all these different divisions and help apply sustainability in my case. And that worked in its own way because we had from 2024 onward, we have a climate action plan that we try to follow that dictates all these actions that are being worked on across the agency. And so because we had that plan, it made sense, and it was an agency-wide strategic plan that we would be in this kind of strategy unit.
Yep.
But what it effectively does is it makes you sort of preach the top-line goal rather than the implementation more so. You know, like if you're not in any one implementation-focused division like a finance or like a maintenance or whatever,
Yep.
what you're mainly armed with is the plan itself.
Yeah. We need to achieve X by Y.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I think the challenge is sort of not losing the big goals whenever you're saying, okay, let's make this financial now.
Yeah.
Great. That doesn't mean you lose the almost moral goal of achieving all of these changes by, in our case, 2045. So I think the best organizations can still keep the sort of process or department agnostic goal of this is what we need to do as an agency, but can still apply it functionally and practically through the lens of, you know, in our case, finance.
Have you started to, I mean, it's new for you, but I'm curious because when I was at the city of Pittsburgh, this was like one of the places where I ended up in terms of both my views of sustainability, but also where you can be ultimately enhance your effectiveness, which is like budgeting and procurement. Like the idea that, you know, you have a plan, you have this 2045 plan, but in order to activate it, you're going to need to have the human and financial resources to achieve that, in addition to the directive.
Yeah.
But also I came to this point where, like, you have to be able to buy stuff, like whether that is energy or a bus or some sort of solution, a software or service. It's that procurement activity that can drive change. Like, have you started to see that?
Admittedly, no. And that's not because they're not working on it. It's because that is a black box to me, especially when you get into public procurement. It is a very, very, very intricate process.
Yeah.
And we have pretty different procurement processes not different in terms of the rules, but in terms of the complexity. Capital procurement and operational procurement kind of sit in their own.
So they're two different buckets.
And so it's learning like two whole processes to really get involved there. But I'm working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
We're trying to redo our capital budgeting process to at least consider sustainability as a metric. that will follow with some of our operational procurements, paper and
Sure.
office supplies and things like that. It does add up cost-wise, and we're in a cost-saving position. So those magic bullets are always the ones that both save you money and,
Yep.
are sustainable. But procurement, yeah, I mean, I'm going to misquote the truism, but it's something like, policy is progress, or that's not at all the right quote, but you know what I mean? Sometimes you can put change on autopilot just by writing the right policy and filtering it outward through the agency. And so we've been trying to do that as much as possible, especially in this place where we don't have the $200 million grant to, go big on some new property, right?
Because it creates like that fundamental foundation. I totally agree with you. If you're in public, two things, I guess. One is like in public procurement, one of the things that I've discovered is just the ability that Pennsylvania in particular procurement law needs modernized.
Yeah.
We operate in a variety of states, and so whether it's through, public-private partnerships, or the ability to look at like design and construction concurrently, through like design build contracting, like those are some of the things that save time, save money.
Right.
And I think about a lot of that, back in my previous experience, where like if you just had some of those capabilities, like it could really change the function of things.
It can definitely be a snare, It can definitely be one of the. We were just joking before we started recording about the Artemis mission, the moon mission. It's definitely one of those moments where you breathe a sigh of relief when you make it past procurement,
Right.
or it's once you're clear of that, you can start to, then it becomes real. Like, oh, this is actually in orbit. This is moving.
I wanted to go back a little bit though too, because yesterday at the sustainability breakfast, we were also talking about this. I mean, transit inherently is a sustainable activity, right? We're reducing emissions by consolidating traffic patterns or transit patterns, and where does PRT sit right now in terms of like the funding situation? Like it was in the headlines for a while, but I know we're not out of the woods.
Very much not, and I think I got a lot of back pats during that whole episode. Congratulations, you guys, you made it. And I said, I don't know if we did. Essentially what happened was we were given a 2-year patch where we were allowed to use capital funding for operational expenses.
Okay.
So
2 years from when to when?
I'm not entirely. It's
Okay.
budget fiscal year. So basically, we're about to enter the next fiscal year, so it'll be true for the whole next fiscal year.
Got
so FY27.
Okay.
And so to the rider, it doesn't seem like much has changed at all. Service levels are basically what they were before. Employment-wise, we're rough, pretty much at the same level we were before. But inside the building, it means that there are some capital projects that have been deferred. And there was a big agency-wide look through of the capital projects, and we basically said, is there a safety reason why this needs to be done soon? Or do we have committed funding through grants that we would have to surrender if we didn't do this soon? If it didn't check one of those boxes, chances are it was deferred.
Okay.
And so I can name a personal example of that is, we're kind of Charlie Brown with the football when it comes to electrifying our fleet vehicles.
Okay.
And that is, because there's capital expenses involved with
chargers,
conduit, all that stuff.
Yep.
So, once you start off, and we really haven't started there yet, we don't have any electric fleet vehicles. It becomes easier, but those initial installations,
once you lay that base infrastructure,
we just haven't got there. And we were going to get there, but all that money was deemed non-essential from a safety or committed grant perspective. And so it was deferred. It's not to say it doesn't line up with our goals or our mission. We got to do it eventually, but it wasn't in that moment part of the triage, So that's just one example from me.
So it's on the shelf, effectively.
It's on the shelf, yeah. And so that goes, anyone in any department can name a project that probably suffered the same. So no, to answer your question, we're treading water with the money that we had already had. We didn't get a new cash infusion. We were able to basically use our own money, but we were, we keep them in separate buckets, capital and operating, for a reason. You don't want to mix the two if you don't have to. So we will continue to mix the two to keep service on the road, but when this is up, we'll be back to where we were before and then some, because we will also have all these deferred capital projects that we'll have to make up the money for.
So
somehow.
like the capital side gets the problems get a little bit deeper because you have more deferred maintenance or things like your fleet modernization get further out,
right.
which I'm just doing my kind of public procurement math, and that basically is going to increase your operations and maintenance costs over time.
Yeah, you're spelling it out the way it is. It compounds. It is always the best time to deal with any of these problems. The cheapest time to deal with any of these problems is today or yesterday. So the more you wait, the more expensive it gets.
I think that's one of the things too that like a lot of folks. This isn't just a PRT thing, but this is like this is an America thing. Like we fail to realize the implications of deferral.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that we've seen it, across the infrastructure space in the last couple of years where you have increasing costs, whether that is inflationary pressure, constraints on supply chains, which rise costs, labor constraints in terms of not having enough people, so that increases wages and those sorts of things. Material costs have gone up because of fuel inputs and other sorts of things. So the cost of a normal project goes up. Right. And then when we kick the can down the road, there's a multiplier to that.
There is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that it really gets to a sense of like, is there ways that you think that like the public and or we'll just stay with the public, but also public officials, like to get a better understanding of that? Like the question of like, how can we have nice things?
Yeah. I mean, we're in this world where, you can have a single Netflix movie that costs $400 million to make.
And they're like, hey, that's fine.
And that's just a normal,
drop in a bucket.
In 2 months, you've forgotten about it completely.
That's right. And you didn't even finish it.
No. I mean, you
got 2 episodes in, and that was it.
And I'm not saying that that's not a trade that employs a ton of people. And, I like movies and TV as much as anyone else.
Sure.
But, when you compare that to an agency like PRT, where I'm going to get the number wrong, but we're in the $500 million a year operating budget somewhere in there. I mean, it does call into question where our kind of values are at as a society, right? And I think that people are getting that. I think there's a bit of a reckoning that's happening. I don't want to stray too far from my lane as a sustainability director, but but it is my lane because
it is at the core of sustainability.
The first goal of the climate action plan is to increase ridership. That's pretty much any plan at PRT, whether
is grow ridership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It helps everything. And it is our mission. So anything that hurts ridership hurts me, hurts you, hurts anyone that breathes air. And it's a problem. So there needs to be, I don't want to provide my editorial opinion too much, but I think it's obvious that there needs to be some kind of change.
Sure.
Whether it's a diversification of funding, where it comes from, a better formula that just kind of gives us more reliably what we need so that we don't have to come hat in hand.
It allows you to plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem that we've had over the past few budget requests, really over the past couple of decades, is that it becomes kind of a vicious cycle. Where our funding is contingent on performance. If you were a private agency or private business, that would make a lot of sense. You get money because you provide a service better than you did before.
Sure.
Or more than you did before. In our case, you get something like COVID that comes along and drops your ridership.
Takes your knees right out from underneath you.
And then you go asking for more money. The response from the funder is, well, where did your ridership go? You had a 30% drop in ridership, so therefore you get a 30% drop in funding, and that builds and builds, and you're in a race to the bottom. So,
and in some cases, their funding sources, whether it's federal or state, are also hamstrung.
Right. Nobody's having it easy right now.
Yeah.
On the public side, and again, the silver lining of that is it does kind of force some economy. It does force some innovation from us. Not that we're not interested in those things on a regular day.
Sure.
But, you do see some improvement. And I'll compliment everyone that I work with at PRT. I mean, from the shop floor all the way up to the corner office, people are pretty good and have grown accustomed to doing a lot with a little. There are many people wearing many hats that don't deserve to be, that need some relief to do one job very effectively, but still I have to compliment them are managing to do several jobs pretty effectively, but it's not sustainable.
I think that is like the part of the human toll too. I mean, you see that I think in every sector now more and more where individuals are called upon to wear multiple hats. Yeah. And, where there might be some efficiency for a period of time in that, it also takes you away from your ability to think deeply, be creative,
right.
Constantly reacting and responding versus thoughtfully carrying out activities.
Right.
One of the things, though, that you guys have done, just to speak on innovation, I'm curious to learn where it sits now, is the corporate partnership side.
Yeah.
And the ability to bring corporate partners into the fold and encourage, through those partnerships, encouraging ridership.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that and, where that kind of initiative stands and, how it's going.
Yeah, we have now, it's in full swing, is our Partner Pass program, PRT and ER Pass. We love naming things.
That was really good.
I know.
Okay.
But that is
was that the marketing team or is that?
I don't know. I'll call it a group effort.
Okay.
But it is it's a very that's probably the easiest entry point for your average large. Well, it doesn't have to be large necessarily, but if you're a largish business and you want to become more sustainable and you want to support transit at the same time, that's probably your best route to do that.
As a corporate partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it is it basically is an employee benefit that you would sign on to the program, and you would provide for all of your employees a discounted, pretty heavily discounted monthly transit pass, which I think works out to about $30 a month for the actual employee.
Okay.
So, we like to say, do you offer parking benefits to your employees, as many businesses do? Do you also offer transit benefit? I've known people who are very sustainability minded, work for a big corporation who will go nameless, or I won't name names on the podcast.
Company X.
Company X, who, and Company X, by the way, is very sustainable, at least in terms of their outward pitch to the community and in all their annual reports and all these other things.
They're doing some of the right things too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And yet there is on the one hand a free parking pass and nothing for transit. And so this person who wants to be sustainable and there's no place where you can be more sustainable than your daily commute.
True.
It's something you do twice a day, every day.
Whether you want to or not.
Whether you want to or not. And they drive because it is just cheaper to do it. One is free, one is not. And the one that is not is the public transportation option. It's way easier to bring that to zero than your subsidized parking, So, and the Partner Pass doesn't bring it all the way to zero, although certainly businesses and so forth are perfectly within their rights to buy a fully 100% subsidized transit pass for their employees, but Partner Pass gets them most of the way.
If you're Company X, or maybe let's talk about Company Y now.
Sure.
How do they get started? Like, what is there an analysis they do, or to make help them understand both the benefit, but also like, does it make like operational sense? And when I'm thinking about that, like geography plays a big role in the system, right? In terms of like, is your location transit accessible, right?
Right.
What's that type of thought process, and how can a company plug in?
Yeah, it's one of the more, anytime anyone has, I think, a really honest hesitation about subsidizing, or a well-meaning hesitation about subsidizing transit for employees. And by the way, this program I'm talking about isn't just for companies, but I'm just talking about it.
It could be nonprofits.
It could be nonprofits. I believe it could be apartment buildings.
Really?
Apartment landlords will use it as like a tenant benefit.
That's a really innovative approach.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could be both.
Okay.
So it's flexible. And like I said, it's a pretty nascent program too. So if you're someone that says, I don't know if it's right for me, come talk to us, because we might be able to, structure something that works. But how they go about determining which is the best way to be sustainable as it relates to transit, it really depends. I mean, especially in a world where like remote work is an option, even sometimes the subsidized transit pass is not the way to be maximally sustainable. It's maybe to encourage remote work. That's not true for every place of business. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and I think that's why we offer a couple of different methods of, helping entities like businesses.
It's interesting you bring up remote work because I just had a flashback. Did you ever read the book Drawdown?
No.
I usually don't get recommendations on this.
I know of it, so.
But yeah, it came out probably it would have been like 7-8 years ago maybe, and pre-pandemic. And I remember telework was the term du jour. And they used it as one of like the examples. This was all before the pandemic and the explosion of it. But it is a sustainable path for some. Yeah. But also has pluses and minuses, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and saying it's the silver bullet is obviously wrong. Same thing with even public transit is not the silver bullet, but there's no reason why it should be difficult.
Sure.
Right. And you can even like think back to when carpooling was all the rage. All these HOV lanes were, being installed to encourage carpooling, and I know some cities, like I think Seattle, have made very overt pushes to get businesses to carpool. Some places have staggered, office opening times to kind of try and make sure that the rush hour is a little bit less clogged. So there's a lot of different things you can do to make commutes less burdensome on the environment. Our perspective is just that the transit needs to be one of those options.
One of those options, sure. Is there a sign-up process or an interview? Or
Partner Pass, just look it up online. It's the easiest place to go, and there's a quick and easy way to get signed up.
Or do you guys see it going back to like where routes are located, or is there a corridor, or obviously like offices downtown would be a good choice. Yeah. But are there others that kind of fit the mold where it is a real optimal benefit? Yeah,
well, I will point to another effort that's ongoing and is in its final-ish stages. It's never, things like this are never totally done, but our bus line refresh. So we're going through all of our bus lines and optimizing them for a kind of post-COVID world where we're trying to move service to where it'll be the most effective. And with that, there is an even greater emphasis on not just downtown, but Oakland. So I would say if you're a business in Oakland, especially after the new university line opens up that kind of links downtown with Oakland, that corridor is the most transit-rich today, will be tomorrow, tomorrow. So anywhere in that zone, I would say this kind of a program would be very beneficial. And I also, I'll never miss an opportunity to plug the busways. If you're a business that's in East Liberty, for example, and there are many that are sprouting up over that way, you have access to some of the finest transit in the whole system, the fastest in the whole country. So, it's been a definite. We as a region, I think, have been trying to unlock, or we've been trying to be less downtown centric with our thinking. And I know that sounds a little wild right now because of all the draft efforts that are happening downtown, and they're all very valid. But
that's a question coming up in a second.
But we're becoming a much more diversified, regionally focused place. It's not just downtown is everything. And so with that comes a focus and a refocus of how we route our transit. And that's a good thing. You want every place to be a little bit mixed use, transit rich everywhere.
It's true. And I just, as we kind of turn the corner, I have a couple more questions for you, but it to lead into it, it makes me think, you just mentioned the busways. Like I always think about a community like Carnegie, for example.
Oh yeah.
That is just it's a great area, but also, and I'm not from there, so it's not a shameless plug, but like accessible via the busway, close into town. So you have like those capabilities to build on, right?
Right.
that led me into, the BRT for the PRT.
Sure.
Like, where is the BRT kind of process project sit today?
Okay, so BRT is bus rapid transit, and depending on who you talk to, there's different definitions of it. In our case, it's a bus exclusive lane that does a figure 8 between downtown and Oakland. I am not myself involved with the project, so I can't speak to the construction timeline, but if you've driven through the area, you'll see that there's definitely ongoing construction. The downtown portion is complete and it's functioning very well. The Oakland part of it is under construction and should be done, I'll just say soon-ish. I'll add ishes to everything that I don't fully know. But that, I think, will be a really, really useful thing. And we have compliments to the city for being a really valuable partner with that too, because they're doing a lot of signal upgrades. They're doing a bike lane that runs parallel to that. That's all DOMI. So there's a lot of collaboration happening there. That when it's all done, and I will thank the communities of Oakland, downtown, and uptown for being very patient with many, many, many construction projects. But when it's all done, they'll have access to, outside of the busways, we already have some of the best transportation in the city.
It really is a huge system enhancement in terms of, but also like a development enhancement, right? Because it connects those communities together in a more, I'm going to say, formal way. Not that they weren't connected in the past, but it becomes more of an intuitive trip.
Yeah. And you can see, it is the university line, because at one end you've got Point Park, and then you've got, Pitt, CMU, Chatham at the other side, or Carlo at the other side. But the fact is that you'll probably start to see a broadening of what the university district even looks like because of this transit line.
Yep.
Real estate's tight in Oakland right now. Downtown has a lot of vacant real estate. Maybe there's
pull some pressure out.
Exactly.
Creates an opportunity for sure.
And you see development happening along that whole corridor. You've seen development happen along the East Busway, and we're trying to enable that even more with transit-oriented development programs of our own. And we're trying to work with municipalities, not just the city, but you mentioned Carnegie, but boroughs outside the city limits to modernize their zoning to enable transit-oriented development, which, for those who don't know, is basically just packing as many people as you can right near the high capacity transit lines.
Makes it super convenient.
Makes it convenient for them. It helps us because we have full buses. We can go to the state legislature and say, look how full our buses are. Please, please give us a little bit more money. And it's just how a functioning modern urban place is supposed to work.
You get more bang for your buck.
Right.
Speaking about bang for your buck, and just one final question here. We mentioned it kind of intermittently through the conversation, but the NFL draft is upon us here.
Yes.
And so we wouldn't be doing our public service without giving a public service announcement around the role transit is going to play in terms of this major event.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that, what folks, can expect, just in terms of I think the system, like if you're maybe a first time rider or new into town, what are some of those choices that are available for folks?
So we're running at our highest capacity and then some across the whole system. So you should be able to see pretty reliable transit wherever you are. And we talk about corporate partnerships. We've gotten some subsidy from Sheetz to run some of that service for free.
Made to order.
That's MTO. That so it really will be the most convenient time to use transportation from that perspective. There are also going to be a lot more people.
Sure.
So people should be prepared for that. I personally am very excited at this prospect. Pittsburgh is a city that was made for 600,000 people, and we might have 600,000 people finally here for the first time since.
We'll test what population growth really looks like.
Right. So I think transit is going to be an incredibly important aspect of the draft, whether you're catching the 28X from the airport when you arrive from San Francisco or wherever, all the way to your final destination, and then certainly in and around the actual draft site where we've got some specialty draft bus lines that are made to get people in and out of there very quickly. All of that's available on our website. You can also buy an NFL draft pass specifically for the event on our app. So we're trying to make it as easy and convenient for people, but we take it pretty seriously. I mean, and everyone is, but depending on what department in PRT you're a part of, everyone's taking it very seriously because this is our best handshake with people coming to the region, and like probably our reintroduction to a lot of people who are already here. Because if you're like me, I'm not driving downtown during the draft. No way. So even if you're someone that's
doesn't
never
make sense,
right?
Yeah.
If you're someone who doesn't typically ride the bus, you might for this week. And so we take very seriously, how that experience goes for people. We want it to be comfortable, clean, friendly, and fast. And the hope is that people will see it, experience it, come away saying, well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And
I know how to pay now without feeling like I'm stalling, holding up a line of traffic. I know, and that people will do it again.
So you're saying I should download the app now?
Download the app. Grant.
There it is.
You must have the app.
I
Grant.
don't. I still have
the Ready to Ride app.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to get the Ready to Ride app. That's the way.
This is total commercial for that.
I know. And that will flag also, you can look forward to a fully integrated fare payment system coming pretty soon as well, where you can be able to do things like, this is me straying too far from my lane, so I trust the editors to get any of this out of here that's not correct, where you'll be able to pay with things like your Apple Wallet and things like that.
That's huge.
Yeah, you can do that in other cities, and you'll finally be able to do that in Pittsburgh too. So even after the draft, we're looking forward to making it more of a convenient, seamless process for people. And once you take that mental strain out and convince people that transit's not so bad,
it just opens accessibility.
It totally does. So that's the hope. We're really seeing this draft as not just, it's a big challenge, yes, but it's also a major springboard to like I said, reintroduce ourselves to people that might have had a bad experience in the past, but might have a better one in the future.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have you back, Ryan, in order to debrief about the draft and all the success that PRT is going to have, as well as across the city, but also learn about how the progress of some of these different initiatives take shape.
It's tough times. We're doing a lot with a little, like I said, but there's a whole lot of cool stuff happening, and ride the bus, ride the bus, people.
There's the message.
Right.
Ryan, thanks for joining us here on The Green Voice, and thank you for listening in. My name is Grant Ervin with S&B USA Construction. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll talk to you soon. Be well.